Hi, I'm Nikki and I'm the marketing specialist at Boost Midwest. And today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Tom Racek, founder and president of Summit Pointe Productions. Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday morning. How are you?
I'm great, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Awesome. Good. Very excited to have you. One of my favorite aspects of what I get to do is the opportunity to work with experts every day, whether it's an expert of a specific area of business, entrepreneur, or a community leader. So with that said, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for work and what your team does daily.
For sure. Well, first off, thank you again for having me on. It's awesome to be featured on Direct Perspectives. And Summit was kind of an interesting journey. So I've been working in the freelance production industry for probably about 8 years now.
Nice.
I worked all over the place. I worked in New York, I worked in Florida, I worked in Atlanta. Atlanta was the last place I worked in heavy freelance before COVID happened.
Okay.
And I just relocated there from Florida. I had finished grad school, finished my MFA in film production, and then I was working in Atlanta full-time doing freelance work, working for various sets. I was on a set for Warner Bros. A couple times. I was doing a lot of just very different stuff. But
Cool.
When COVID happened, just everything shut down. And I literally moved there about 6 months prior. So I was very much the low man on the totem pole. So that happened, and I knew no one knew what was happening then. So I just knew that I didn't want to be in a big city during COVID. So I called my mom and I said, "Hey mom, would you mind if I moved in?" And she was like, "Absolutely, come on down." So I moved to Arkansas, which was, it's fortunate because we're very, sparsely populated and you can kind of still do what you want, but because of that, the film industry totally shut down. Everything creative shut down, and then people had to kind of recalibrate their navigation as to how they were going to make money, especially in the freelance industry.
Yeah.
So I applied for a couple jobs, and one of the jobs that I applied to, a connection was very nice. He forwarded my resume in front of their CEO. He was like, "No, you're not qualified for this position, but I see that you have a film background and that you worked a lot on set. How would you like to do commercials and work for us on the social media front?" And I was like, that would be perfect.
Awesome.
So it was because of that connection, because of that opportunity, that Summit was founded in May of 2020.
Awesome.
And as soon as we entered into that space, we saw that there was a huge dearth, especially in the medical field, for videos regarding information, safety, public branding, awareness, education. There was just this huge dearth. And I think a lot of it has to do with just, the constant changing environment, and COVID forced everyone to do a 180 real quick. And you went from being a totally social environment to totally distant. And now you had to have this digital presence. So we really kind of focused on those groups, and we've been steadily growing since. We're a team of about 5 now. And we specialize everything from copywriting to creative marketing to film production to pretty much the whole gamut. Today we're going to do rework a brochure for a client. Tomorrow we're going to be on a shoot, and then the next week we're going to be trying to produce a small documentary with this team we gathered. So it's a range of things that we do, but every day is interesting and we learn so much, and it's a great team we have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It seems like every day is a little bit different, and it's nice that COVID is on its way out, if you will, so that you could be a little more face-to-face. And that's what I was curious about, because of, a lot of content creators like yourself, you have to be on set, right? That's how you get the good footage, good pictures, etc. So I think my next question would be, what are some qualities that a content creator needs to be successful if someone was looking to go into this industry?
Yeah, I mean, just as an individual, and this applies for if you're doing PR for corporate as well, is just to find your voice. Find your voice, be consistent with it, and don't betray your audience. Once you have that audience that's kind of following along with it, the worst thing you can do is to pull a 180 and then try to go completely off track. Not only are you going to start from scratch, but you're also going to have a lot of people that are really upset with you. So once you find your voice, whether it's, in a corporation or whether it is for yourself, stick with it and become consistent. Become that creative force that is just always consistent. People love scheduling. It benefits you greatly for algorithms. It's also something that people can tune in on, you know, kind of like a television show. You know, if there's a new episode coming on every Wednesday at 8, you know, people tune into that. They like the scheduling, and so does all the algorithms. And then just, you know, with marketing, or, you know, as your brand grows, you know, whether it's working in corporate or personal, you're going to have, you know, you got to pick your battles too, right? Because you're going to have opportunities for sponsorship. You're going to have opportunities where other people want to be involved, and you just have to constantly gauge, you know, what would my audience like to see? Because ultimately you're not, you know, it comes to a point where, yes, starting off, you are doing it for yourself, but eventually you want to get to the point where you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others. So you need to have that mentality, and you need to know when that switch point is. So once that switch is over, pick your battles, know what your audience would like to see, and just be a pleasant force to work with. Just be a pleasant person. And you're never, even during the dry times, you will never be short of work, and you'll never be short of opportunities.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think, you know, people trying to get back on their feet after COVID, specifically entrepreneurs that were having to shut down, that branding and voice that you mentioned is huge. And that's the consistency is what's going to get them seen, and have those people fall in love with them is what you want, because that brings in sales, and, you know, it just boosts the company altogether. So that's amazing. And I love the feedback. So, but now, what are the common challenges that you're seeing with your clients facing today?
So I probably say one of the biggest challenges is just how, you know, finding that intersection with how things used to be done versus how things are done now.
Yeah.
You know, because in a way, your digital presence has kind of replaced the formal resume. When you start a company, you have two entities essentially. You know, you have the ground in-person entity, and then you also have the digital space entity. And you can't have one without the other, or else you're going to severely limit your growth, your potential, and your outreach. Especially if you're a charity, or, you know, if you're a nonprofit that's really trying to do good in this world, you need to make sure you're balanced on all fronts. And startup, equally the same thing. So with that, I would say the biggest challenge I've personally had is just coming in contact, working with leadership that perhaps isn't necessarily as open to the idea of having a stronger digital marketing space, a digital marketing voice, and incorporating that with, you know, either video work or other creative work. That's been the biggest challenge so far. But then in converse, I've had people that are younger who are totally overboard with that, and don't necessarily focus on laying the foundation and the logistics and making sure that you actually have a successful company, instead of projecting out like, you know, it's something larger than what it's actually capable of.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think kind of take a little turn here, if that's okay. Based off your experience, you kind of mentioned, you know, there's a left side and a right side sort of idea, and how does an entrepreneur or a business kind of meet that digital space plus that older, I say older, it's not that old, but I guess more of that paper style, or the older traditional style pre-COVID. So how, in your experience, now that you did it before COVID, because honestly that changed the entire realm of marketing, and then now post-COVID, kind of what is your take on how somebody can kind of balance that out?
That's tough. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say probably maintain some of the older morals, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was in, I went to Full Sail for graduate school, and they always had these nuggets of inspiration. You know, they could be either inspiration or kind of like discouragement, depending where your mental state was. But one of the things they said was, you're only as relevant as your last performance.
I like
so
that.
Just keep that mentality, and that your word is your worth.
Yep.
So but that's almost like old school thinking, you know, that's very much old school. So I think the best balance between that is just blending the best of those both mentalities, right? If you say you're going to do something, you do it. You're not afraid to call someone. I'm a much better texter than I am caller, but I have learned to become a caller, especially when talking with clients and just, checking in and stuff like that. If people are okay with it, a handshake, smile, just always trying to present yourself in the best professional light. And then when you do that, it helps open them on. Once people are comfortable with that, especially if that's their mentality, kind of opens people's minds or may change their perspective and make them a little bit more open to that, digital marketing space and stuff like that. And then if someone's just totally open towards digital marketing space and maybe is not as big on the check-ins and stuff like that, they'll probably appreciate it, especially it shows that you care for their business. And similar to like what Boost Midwest does, how Boost integrates with other businesses and operations and really understands it from a ground level up. That's what you want to be with your clients. You want to be an efficient gear in their machine. You don't want to be just totally an outside entity.
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. And I think you're totally right. Getting to know individuals on a ground level also helps you create that content that's going to have that brand and that voice, because you're really going to know where they're coming from, opposed to just reading a bio or an about us on a website. So that's fantastic. I think, what else do you want anybody else to know about your industry or your business? Anything of the above?
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I think I'll just look at it from like a video production standpoint. So currently we have 5 people on staff. So it's great because we can really start with the concept from the beginning to the end, right? And if a company is interested in investing in video production, a lot of times they're paying a producer, and you're just paying a producer to open their Rolodex, right? And I know, because I've come from this, I was a person on that Rolodex before. So I understand the mentality of freelancing and stuff like that. So producers, they hire out a lot of work. They hire out a lot of freelancers. And the freelance culture is different because, the loyalty isn't necessarily there, right? Because they're looking for a better schedule, they're looking for a better paycheck, and then sometimes that balloons costs very quickly, especially if you have to hire someone else mid-production or anything like that. So I would strongly recommend anyone that's hiring a video production company to not necessarily look at their Rolodex of contacts, but look at what they've actually produced and what they've actually done and what their capabilities are internal. Not only is it a cost-saving endeavor and initiative, but the product's going to be better because it's going to be that same group from start to finish.
Yeah, because you're going to get different eyes from different people. That's fantastic. And that was my next question. If you were interested in starting your own business, what kind of advice would you have? And I think that's perfect. You're not only being cost savvy, but you're also not changing up that lens, if you will, between personalities. So that's great. I think my last question for you, if that's okay, is there a motto that you might live by, or a saying that keeps you going and motivated?
Maybe not necessarily a motto, but more like I could belt one out, but it was so my parents were both kind of military government, so they were very hard, not hard people to live with, but very very disciplined, yeah. And one of the things they said was the only easy day was yesterday. So kind of just constantly embracing the grind and just getting after it, and recognizing that I think it's unfortunate because like everyone says that you have time, but especially like with all the things that we've collectively been through, sometimes you realize you don't. You never know when your last tomorrow is today. And just that kind of motivates me to get as much done as possible. Because you never know what's in store for you in this life. So I just don't want to leave any page unread or any page unturned. I just want to get as much done as possible. So that's kind of...
Yeah. I love that you can use it towards your personal life as well as your professional life. And I think that's great. And you're finding a balance on both. So, but Tom, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. If anybody's interested, Tom Racek can add his information, and he'd be happy to hang out with you for a little bit. He's a great guy. We like him. So if you're interested, follow us at Boost Midwest, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much, Nikki.